tournament. You know, we've gotten past, I kind of expected this. I was going to talk about Muzzy's Warrior for a second here. I believe he's got a copy of Azalina in the deck, if I recall correctly.
Okay, I haven't seen Muzzy's lineup at all, I'm afraid.
If he has Azalina, there was a big change to the way that that copying cards worked, where if cards transfer zones and it's not a zone of progress, they maintain their buff. He does not have Azalina, so you know, ignore this fact. But I'll talk about it anyway. If you Azalina a Kingsbane from an opposing hand, you get the buffs that are attached to the Kingsbane. So there is like a little bit of stuff there. He has a Tinkmaster in that flexible slot instead.
Can't afford to drop out. 15 of them are going to go above you if you lose here, as well as all the 5-0s we haven't even talked that much about, because we will see them later. We're into game number 1, and we haven't avoided Jakaso's nightmare.
This is not a nightmare for me. I love Odd Warrior. I love the slow, grindy, methodical play, and I love when players have to exercise patience and use that diligent time that they've spent learning and becoming a student of the game to outmaneuver their opponents in this matchup.
By pressing the button.
By pressing the button, mostly.
Now, one thing I do find fascinating about Odd Warrior mirrors, if they get roughly equal draws, is every decision matters, and you don't really know the outcome until very late on.
Yeah.
The cumulative decision-making does matter by the end of the game, but it takes a while to unfold and resolve itself.
Yeah, sort of by nature of what you said and by proxy of what you just said, you know, the draws tend to be fairly even. There is a lot of time that is spent in a building phase, so to speak, where you don't do anything, you can't afford to use tools because it allows your opponent to use tools more efficiently. That's a very real thing. So in the matchup, you expect it to go very slow. You expect players to take a lot of time, and you expect ultimate advantage in terms of number of cards at the end of the game to be the major determining factor. So, you know, don't expect players to get off to a blistering start ever in this matchup. It's nigh impossible.
Really happy to see Jakaso there, who we haven't seen on screen much this year, despite his good record. Pretty much roping turn 1, that's basically not thinking much, it's just sitting there going, okay, I'm a Dreamhack, I'm playing Muzzy, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to make sure I'm playing to my abilities, just settling himself down. He wasn't even looking at the screen for half that turn, he was just literally getting used to being where he is.
I think it's important to calm yourself down, and you know, when I get in a tournament scenario, I mean, heck, sometimes happens to me when I'm playing on ladder, I'm just in a really intense game. I can feel my heart rate elevate. Like I get really into it. It's very meaningful to me, and I feel like I'm competing, and that like this is important, and I need to win. And when that happens, I tend to get very distracted as that moment comes along. And I've found that often for myself, if I just simply take a moment and focus and just think about the game instead of thinking about the match in general, that it really helps me calm down and bring me to that point of focus. It takes a little time sometimes, but it usually works.
Last minute switch as well, so he hasn't had his sort of 5 or 10 minutes, oh, I'm on stream time that a lot of players get. He's like, get over there, sit down, play some Hearthstone. Oh, okay, I'm going to rope a couple of turns.
Yeah, Muzzy's got a very nonchalant attitude about that stuff. You know, they'd walk over to Muzzy and go, hey, you're going to be on stream, we can't find the initial match. He goes, oh, okay. He sits down, he's ready to go.
Muzzy.
You know, if that got thrown on me, you know, even with the number of times that I've been in front of an audience talking about stuff, the moment that I have to do something unusual, that's when I start getting nervous.
Even when you're casting, if there's a caster that's suddenly ill or goes missing, he's like, Admirable, you're needed. Get up there now. You're like, okay, run, adrenaline.
Yeah, like for instance, when they told me I'm going to be casting with Lorin in the first one, I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I got to hurry up.
Yeah, you'll get used to it. just carry.
Like, take a breath.
It'll be fine. What could go wrong? Don't answer that, chat. Many things could go wrong. Yep, Jakaso again, just chilling out. I mean, Muzzy will be used to all manner of opponents, but this is probably slightly irritating to him. Like, he's a guy who likes to get on with things. And Jakaso is just taking his time, drinking his water, looking at nothing in particular, not even staring at the board.
Well, we say that, and then he brought Odd Warrior. You know, this was a choice.
Serves you right. Tinkmaster, would you say it's a staple in Odd Warrior now? I love the Tinkmaster tech, but is it now becoming staple?
I don't know if I'd call it staple. I personally do like it because it's a single tool that can be useful in a lot of situations. It can be dead in a lot of situations, but you know, like a lot of Odd Warrior cards, the nature of them is very polarized. They serve a specific purpose, and then you're relying on your cards that serve a specific purpose in the matchup to show up as you gain a lot of armor. Like, you have a lot of time to take care of things as it goes along. And so Tinkmaster is a card that's a bit of a catch-all. If you need to take out a specific minion, your opponent's going to resurrect. If you need to face off against Taunt Druid and be able to actually keep them from using Witching Hour, sometimes that's enough of a success rate where you convert something into a beast to help nullify Witching Hour. that it's a card I think you can justify the slot for very often. You would have to have a very predictable metagame, I think, to not include this card. And a tournament metagame is typically not that. You need to have more of your bets hedged across the board.
I found it very interesting how this card sort of first started making it to tournaments. In Oslo, Zorkthar basically put it in there to test against Taunt Druid and found out it worked. And then realised, hang on, this kills giants and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But then the Hoys and Penny, they tested it to see if they could kill giants and stuff and go, hey, this works against Taunt Druid and other stuff. So two people tested it against, or two groups of people tested it against one specific matchup and independently realised, hang on, this works against other matchups.
You're right.
And they had it for different reasons originally, and they both realised each other's reason worked as well. It was really interesting.
I think that the giant one is a really important one you bring up, because even if you turn a giant into a 5/5 instead of an 8/8, you've still dealt it 3 effective damage, you've taken off 3 attack, and you have a 3/3 on board that can hit into it. It becomes much easier to kill a mountain giant in that instance than it would be before.
So the game will actually get going shortly as they're both approaching full hand sizes and we can stop introducing the players in the game. This is kind of how the Warrior matchup works. There's no hurry to do anything. Obviously here, Jakaso with the early boom could get a bit of an advantage, or could get a strong advantage if Muzzy doesn't turn up. Yeah, again, it's all the cumulative effect of those hero powers. No one of them really blows you out of the water.
Right. It's like look at the size of minions, right? Like Dr. Boom, I think can be a relevant card in this matchup, but it's not always as simple as playing Dr. Boom early. You know, if your opponent has a lot of resources that can handle minions, if you're not able to take care of that, you know, in a pretty easy manner, what ends up happening instead is you play Dr. Boom, your opponent gets to tank up a lot, and as you approach fatigue turns, your opponent just has so much more armor than you that you can't win.
Muzzy also now has his Dr. Boom, as we were discussing that. And yeah, I mean, gaining 4 armor a turn is pretty good. It's more than Dr. Boom gets you. He does, of course, get you the resources to take the opposing armor down. But like you say, the timing, and maybe you can get a bit of a tempo in the middle and ignore him for a turn or two while you're whacking them for 8s and 12s and things.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the deck list up here in a second and talk a little bit about the macro play that's going on as well. If I recall correctly, I think that Muzzy was on cubes, and the Carnivorous Cube I think can be a very big advantage in this style of match. In this style of matchup, because it allows you to actually kill your Direhorn Hatchlings immediately. You know, the important part of Direhorn Hatchling isn't the minion, it's that it adds an extra card to your deck.
Yeah, sure.
And so if you can cube that minion, you get additional copies of that.
And I mean, that doesn't sound that exciting until you get to turn 7 of fatigue, and one of you's taking 7 and one of you's taking 4.
Exactly.
And suddenly that's just adding up really quickly.
That's a massive amount of difference in the damage. And the other thing, too, is oftentimes if your opponent plays their own Direhorn Hatchlings and can't kill them immediately, you get a chance to silence them in that regard. So it can be a big swing just to simply not have cube in the matchup. And since this is an open decklist format, I think what we end up looking at is that Jakaso recognizes that he has to get fairly aggressive with it, and I think that's part of the reason you're seeing such an early Dr. Boom here, and that forces Muzzy to match that as well. He can't necessarily overcome that advantage every single time, and rather than try, he's just going to match it right away.
The 2 key powers for me are Delivery Drone and the armor. I think they're the 2 you want over and over.
Yeah, I think so.
For the value to remove your opposing armor, and then obviously 7 is a lot of armor.
Yeah, like 1 damage to your opposing board, who cares? 3 damage laser, not bad. 3 1/1s, not bad. But discovering a mech gives you big power points sometimes, where you get just a very critical unit.
Nullify is really good in this particular matchup, I think. It's just so hard to deal with, especially as because of Super Collider, you're putting down 1 thing a turn a lot of the time, or 1 thing at a time, sorry. You really don't want to load up the board and give them any value out of those Super Colliders if you can help it. Not that Muzzy's going to get any out of this, because it's going to get blown up the second he puts his into play. But Muzzy is the player at the moment with very little to do. Jakaso is going to be able to be the first one to start making stuff happen with his minions. It's going to be fairly slow. There's no hurry to make stuff happen. And he's going to make the first move with his hatchlings here.
Silence for Muzz, but he does have that Tinkmaster in hand. That's another thing about the Tinkmaster. It can play a pseudo-silence effect.
Yeah, it's just such a powerful all-around card, and it might be very tempting for him here. Look at these health totals already. This might go on a while.
Oh, it's going to go on a while. I would, at this stage, expect this to enter a fatigue state. I mean,
there goes the Tinkmaster. Muzzy valued that so highly already.
And I agree. I mean, I think this is pretty much one of the most important cards in the matchup, is adding cards to your deck via the Death Rattle.
Worth remembering as well, and this is somewhere where I think Muzzy does have an advantage by having played so much high-level competitive Hearthstone. These guys get like 10 or 15 minutes to look through the deck list. They don't know every card in the deck. It's all right saying it's open lists, but you've got to remember everything, and that's just not possible unless you're like Osaka or somebody.
Right.
So when people inevitably will make mistakes, these weren't drawn overnight. These were drawn 15 minutes before the round started.
Yeah, you do have the ability to take notes in the matchup, and that helps you piece together. A lot of times you just get to remember it after a certain degree. You get to a certain point, you go, oh, that's right, I remember what's in the list at this point.
And a lot of players as well, I think they memorize key cards, they run to their seat, and they start writing down those things before they forget them as quickly as possible, so they're on their notepad.
Yeah.
That is legal. Taking the actual decks with you is not. And again, you can usually blank out of the 120 cards you're facing, you can blank out 110 of them. As long as you don't skim read too quickly and miss something massive, like a Harrison or something that's just lurking there alongside an ooze, that's one that people miss.
Yeah.
They see one weapon removal and just don't look for more.
Yeah. To talk about the tech choices for Jakaso in this matchup and what he's got included, you're looking at Azalina Soul Thief in the 7th slot. You're looking at least the Trailblazer to be able to add to deck. So
Azalina's a big deal. That allows him to get a lot more aggressive if he wants to.
I mean, it is definitely one of the options I think that can break these kinds of matchups open. The nature of the way that the card advantage works out is as you use a card, your opponent uses a card. So Azalina doesn't always provide that opportunity to really make meaningful impact. But if you've just drawn a lot of cards that don't mean anything in the matchup, a lot of times what can happen is you can just exchange them for what are hopefully good cards from the opposing side. So it's more of like a dead hand in the mirror match catch-all style of card. But can be very useful if you find yourself in one of those situations.
And it does give you that opportunity if you fancy taking a chance, like, oh, maybe he hasn't got his removal right now. I'm going to put 3 minions down and Azalina next turn, and I don't lose any cards.
Yeah.
Just have a go. Just take one pot shot, just see if you get lucky, and then move on. But for now, we are still in the phase where a lot of these cards have been assigned a very specific jobs. Obviously, like the Ooze is the obvious one, that's just waiting for the weapon. But also the Omega Assembly will come into play when Jakaso wants to refill with some good stuff, but no hurry for that either.
A lot of times a strong way to play the matchup is to, again, not play cards. Once you reach the 10-card threshold, that's when it starts becoming important to often play a card. I think there are times you can justify burning a card from the deck to put your opponent in an awkward situation. It just depends on what tools you have. Do you have the relevant tools? Is there anything vital left in the deck at that point? I've been watching Jakaso's face throughout this turn, and I see him kind of look off into space, go into deep thought real quick. And a lot of that is that memory exercise. Like, what am I missing from the deck? Is there something critical I need? Do I need to take care of something? So on and so forth.
And we talked about how every decision is crucial. Like there, for instance, there was the zap opportunity for a free bit of value, but you've got 10 cards in your hand, you end up burning something, the value's gone anyway. So
yeah, and also with 2 Omega Assemblies in hand, this is the time where I think that aggression can be a realistic game plan. Muzzy gonna move in with the Direfall Hatchling and Faceless here to try to buy some time. 2 Owls in hand for Jakaso, so gonna be able to shut down that advantage immediately as well.
Yeah, I mean, the cubes are coming later, but Muzzy won't let the cube. It won't be around for long.
I am a little bit surprised that Muzzy was quite this aggressive with the play. There's a lot of opportunities to just continue to wait and continue to wait and continue to wait. The armor total means a lot, but so does activating this to get extra cards in your deck. With the nature of how the game started, Jakaso is going second, and so he is down 1 additional card. And as much as it sounds weird to stress it, the number of cards in deck is the most important factor in the actual game.
Yeah, that shield block is really irritating for him right now. He's never going to play that card, almost certainly, unless some crazy tempo thing happens.
It's almost impossibility to justify drawing a card in this matchup.
And he wants to start doing things with his hand, and he's just got this card in his hand that says, no, well, you've got a 9-card maximum hand size.
Not too bad on the discoveries from the first Omega Assembly, though. Mechanical Wealth, a lot of stats. Security Rover can be a lot of stats. And Faithful Lumia, cheap utility option that can be available as well.
And it is just about a lot of stats when it comes down to it. You are trying to reduce those huge armor totals as much as you can.
Yeah, like if you got something like Bulldozer, you're pretty darn happy with that in the matchup. But Jakaso taking a little bit too much time here as the rope burns out. You can see the shake of the head.
Important, he doesn't let that bother him. Yeah, you're on stream, you've roped out, but Don't worry.
One of the
I know that was
Ironborn hatchling survives, and so the cube gets picked up.
Yeah, that was a miscalculation. I did see it coming sort of as you went, but I want to see where he finished his turn first. It's like, yeah, you're not going to kill both of these the way you're going.
This is a big turn for Muzz right here.
Yeah, Jakaso's not happy.
And with both owls down, Muzzy doesn't have to kill this immediately. You know,
I do wonder from his reaction there if he had a read somehow, and it's very hard to reconstruct how, that Muzzy didn't have the cue from the way Muzzy's played them. He was unhappy that was top deck, and I think he knew it was
it's quite,
needing to be top decked.
it's quite clear from the faceless in the previous turn, Muzzy did not have the cue.
Exactly, so... But we do talk about the cards in the deck, and they are hugely important. It's a lot of extra damage, as we've discussed, but it's not the end of everything. You can generate, especially with that Azalina we're talking about, you can generate a lot more value. Muzzy actually keeping his hand size quite small. I wonder if he's got that in mind.
Out of my jungle.
I think Muzzy's just getting busy, honestly.
Ooh, Lich King's nice.
Yep. You love to see that one.
Sure do.
But what you don't love to see is 2 more cards getting shuffled into Muzzy's deck.
Yeah. And it's not just, I mean, it is just the fatigue is the main thing, but they're big. They're things that, they hurt.
Yeah. 6'9" dinosaurs.
It's a big dinosaur. I think all dinosaurs are big, to be fair, but it's a particularly big dinosaur. I can see why you like this matchup, actually. There's a bit of a meme amongst the casters because at HCT we had some matches, some games that went over an hour several times with Warrior Mirrors, but that's because you had a whole team of people all trying to plan 100 turns ahead.
Yeah,
that takes a while.
It's just a exercise of technical skill. You know, there are a lot of factors that come up that change those things. You know, a lot of random things that can happen that can put you on the back foot. You know, sometimes you find yourself using a tool fairly aggressively because it's a strong turn, and then you run into a random circumstance where you go, wow, if I had saved that tool, I could have handled this other thing by taking a little bit of damage.
But then you still have to factor in what that did for you. Maybe the fact you got an extra 14 damage through, despite the fact you missed something later, maybe that 14 damage was worth it, who knows? And again, it doesn't all become clear until much, much later. All we can do is say, okay, Muzzy's ahead because he's got more cards shuffled into his deck. Jakaso might be in a good spot because he's got Azalina. Yeah,
and you can see, like, even just the mouse movement from Jakaso has been getting a little bit more frantic as this game's been going on, and it's the nervousness from Muzzy being able to shuffle in so many cards. Like, Jakaso, I would venture to say, is feeling like he's falling behind at this point.
Yeah, I do feel he's settled down, though. Like, I think he did a good job of settling in. But like you say, now he's getting nervous for different reasons. This is just normal Hearthstone fidgeting at this point.
Yeah.
This is, oof.
When
this is the same as I would be doing on ladder, let alone in a tournament.
When the game feels like it's not going anywhere, every single time I'm in that situation, I feel like I'm behind. Regardless of how far ahead I am, if the game is not going anywhere, I feel like I'm behind.
Yeah, especially when it's a mirror match as well. Like, if you're not going anywhere in a mirror match, well, they must be doing better than
Unity, precision, perfection.
Strictly value.
Yeah, just taking what's there.
Take your time, get value. Jakaso's been finding a lot of the good hero powers from Dr. Boom, though.
He has. Yeah, that's been ticking away while we've not been looking at those that closely.
I guess my question is, how much more can he actually afford to put in his hand right now? I mean, he's actually going to forego discovery here because there's too many cards in hand.
Neither player actually has a lot going on in hand right now. Jakaso needs to start getting stuff down. I mean, every card in his hand, apart from maybe Baku, is like, you don't want to play the shield block, we discussed that. You obviously don't want to play the flurry. You want to play the Lich King, but there's no space for the cards.
I'm kind of surprised.
You want to wait for your mechanical welt, because that might be, if you draw out the owls and then just get this thing on the board, that could be a big deal later.
I am kind of surprised by the line from Jakaso, because Dr. Boom gives you your max rush. So Security Rover and Mechanical Whelp, they play defensive roles very aggressively and do it very well. So I think this was an opportunity for Jakaso to maybe get like Baku online and try to empty some of the more expensive cards from hand. And as Muzzy continues to use tools to answer those, you get to answer right back with tempo. That's a very important facet of the matchup, is when you get to answer back not only with strong value, but strong tempo as well. You know, it continues to drive that force that Muzzy, you know, starts dwindling on cards. As Muzzy starts dwindling on cards, that's when the Lich King, that's when the Omega assemblies start to pick up those pieces that have been left behind and perhaps substantiate an advantage.
Have you ever had that feeling like, why did I put all these cards draw in my deck? I need to empty my hand. Like, it used to happen with Freeze Mage in particular. It's like, why? I don't want to draw more cards now. I've got way too many.
Yeah, it's like in this instance right here. There's a great use of the mechanical well. You know, perhaps picture instead that was a Baku last turn. You got answered by a big game hunter, and you can mechanical whelp, take out the Ziliax, take out the Elise, and you're left with a 7-2 on board.
However, now he's going to be able to, because of the decision he made, rightly or wrongly, he's going to be able to get Baku down on a turn where he doesn't want to hero.
Exactly, and that's really where one of the consequences comes into play. If there's a hero power you want to use, perhaps you want to save your expensive cards to offset that disadvantage there. There's pros and cons to both sides of it constantly throughout the game, and I think that's part of what interests me so much about the matchup.
Yeah, especially when the Dr. Booms are in play. The games where they're not in play can get a little bit sort of slow and dull, I feel. But when they're in play and you're factoring in, so he's got this, I've got this is going to happen later. This hero power is going to show up at some point. That's when I want to play my Baku because it's rubbish. All that sort of thing.
I think it's fine. 7-8, let's go.
Yeah, this is it. This is the turn he's waited for this. It's a turn where the hero power isn't one he wants. And so let's just lob this guy onto the table.
Big thing.
One big thing, so it can't even be super collided, it's hard to remove. Obviously, Shield Slam has probably been hanging around for this moment all its life.
Well, we're also looking at 2 Dynamatics in hand, though. You know, but Muzzy's got a good hero power online at the moment. So, again, kind of what you were talking about earlier. I think 2 Dynamatics is a stronger play against this. I don't think it's what you end up doing because you have a strong hero power lined up. And for Muzz, you know, 10-10's looking pretty good.
Yeah, forget the text on that card. It's a 10-10 for 10 later on, again, on one of those turns where there's nothing else to do.
Big thing.
Big.
Light the fuses!
Muzzy's very interested in saving the Shield Slam because of tempo, so going to trade in the Dynamatic Body instead. And I think that's really important, too, as Muzzy plays his Baku turn. If he's at a disadvantage on board, gets to use the Shield Slam to buy back some of that tempo.
Pretty much every card in Jakaso's hand gets him another card at this point. He'll want to presumably save the Dire Horn for a turn where it's not just going to get owled.
I'm looking at, like, the Dire Horn and Zola.
Okay, then.
That's a thing he can do.
Out of my jungle!
The Dire Horn.
There's so many Dire Horns. They just keep coming back. But this is the tough bit. Yeah, the shake of the head is like, I don't know what to do. There's too much going on. Help.
So I think that hand dumping here might have been a wiser choice because, as you know, those hero powers come up, they are opportunity costs as well. Every single time you forego that discovery of a minion, that's an advantage you perhaps yielded to your opponent.
Yeah, I think he needs to find a way to dump some of this stuff now, but it isn't easy. He's got the tempo advantage, has had for some time, so Brawl isn't being used anytime soon. The Super Collider, you don't just want to show it to your opponent by just throwing it out there. It might get blown up. You want to use it at least once.
I agree, and I disagree to a certain degree. You know, if he gets that out of hand right now, you're again looking at those opportunities coming up. I want to unlock this Omega Assembly. I want to be able to use this Lich King and not have to worry about burning cards. And this is what I meant by burning cards from your deck. You know, what left in Jakaso's deck is vital to the strategy at this point. I think there is some justification for being able to play powerful cards to unlock more powerful cards than get to a turn where you could start actually spending your cards and you know, drawing more of them as a result of it. It's a really tough thing, and every single decision so minute that you know, in the moment, to me, say that something is, you know, definitively better or worse than the other thing, I think that would just be almost criminal to do.
Yeah, this is why we're not even talking about the actual health totals right now. They're not relevant until things start to unfold, and then we can go into, okay, he's 20 health ahead, but he's 3 minions behind. Is this enough? That's going to be the thing that matters later on.
They are relevant. I just don't know how it's relevant. I don't know how I would explain that the health total matters right now without sitting down and doing a fatigue calculation of how many cards left in deck.
Yeah, and card calculations, stats calculation. It's just a mess.
Lorinda's got an algorithm that can tell you what players' records and torse-ups are. We don't have an algorithm readily available that can tell you whether or not one of these life totals is superior or not superior to the other in conjunction with how fatigue's going to last.
Hang on, back in 5.
Let me call Noblord real quick.
Yeah, exactly. That's the man we need for this hour.
It's like yelling at the monitor right now. He's like, no, look at the...
Obviously, there's 3.7 points of armor difference. Noblord second here last time around.
Yeah, that's right.
Sadly not here this time, but lost to certain Dr. J in the final.
Every time I listen to an analytical thing from Noblord, it is so well organized and so well done. Noblord, it was a player in the collegiate series, actually won a national title about 2 years back, and he's done very well in playoffs as well. Just been a very fantastic player in his time competing. And every single time I hear him talk about something, it's like he's writing an essay for a class or something. It's so well organized and it's so well thought through, and he explains everything in so few words that it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think the first time I really became aware of him was when he had to, or when he chose to analyze an RDU soul fire, which the one that RDU didn't get to Worlds because he discarded the wrong card, and everyone's like, oh no, this is terrible, and Nobler was like, hang on a minute, I don't think this is terrible at all, let's look at this, and he just streamed his whole thought process for that, and from then he just built on that. I was going to say persona, but it's not a persona because it's who he is.
Yeah.
And just made it more and more interesting for more and more situations like that. Fascinating to watch the guy talk about the game. We're both just staring at this board like, what happens now, Admiral?
Well,
let's talk about something else again, because this board state's just...
it's what it is. It's a beautiful thing to behold. You know, I've been watching a bit of the chess championship that's been taking place recently too, and I love when a player has to just take like 20 minutes over the next couple turns while the other guy's moving instantaneously. And I'm like, one of these two knows what's happening and the other one's trying to figure it out, and I love to watch that.
Meanwhile, Peter, who is Peter Fiddler, the commentator for most of it, is a legendary Hearthstone player. He's throwing Hearthstone references into the World Chess Championship broadcasts. He called chat rank 4 yesterday.
If in chess, rank 4 would be really bad too.
They came up with a half-decent move. He goes, you chat, I think you deserve rank 4. Nobody knew what he's talking about because they're all chess players.
He's very much like us. We make jokes for our own personal entertainment and for the entertainment of production rather than the actual audience watching.
Yeah, you think we...
So if you want to get our jokes, join the production team.
Exactly. You think we have to fill time sometimes.
Okay, then.
When someone's thinking about a move for 20 minutes that's fairly obvious to the commentators, they have to fill.
How do you think production feels when listening to us? They have to listen. They don't have an option.
Yeah, I feel sorry for those
Yeah, that's
guys.
right. I'm looking at you right now.
We can see them. Okay, so finally getting some of the space he's needed, but again...
Well, it's working towards that point. You know, the problem is it gives Muzzy some time to make up some of that disadvantage. So now Muzzy's found another Direhorn hatchling. He's found Big Mama Dinosaur.
He's going to Zona the Elise. That's why he's not been doing it on the hatchlings.
And that's an extreme amount of value, and that adds cards to the deck. But, you know, you got to get through these cards first. There's a lot of things you can do when you have, you know, I would say virtually infinite time to be able to buy these cards. The question is, can you make use of all of them? You know, you still only have 10 mana a turn.
Sure, but you have 20 turns. You're 200 mana.
Right. It feels like there's about 700 mana worth of things to do. Is the thing.
The other thing with Elise, I feel that in general the cards you get are kind of mediocre. So having 2 goes at it is actually a big deal because you are going to get something good out of 10 cards.
Plus, there's always like that infinite space and time situation where you know, Elise produces an Elise, which produces an Elise, which produces an Elise, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the more goes you have at that, the better as well. But yeah, this is why he hasn't been doing on the hatchlings all this time, is because he's valuing those cards over that 1 extra fatigue.
Yeah, very long-term plan is what's been going on. And then here, the Eternium Rover, I think, is very much, if it's taken, a nod to, I need to spend cards.
Here we go, yeah.
This jungle hides many secrets.
So now, really need to spend cards. You've got so much value.
The first time I played Elise, I didn't really know what was going to happen with that card. And I was like, is this the only legendary I need? Like, can I just get the rest of the Angoro cards doing this? I don't really know how. And it shuffled a pack into my deck, and I went, oh, wait a minute, they just broke the 3rd wall.
Yeah, they've got packs.
Whatever it is. 4th wall?
There's loads of walls.
It's whatever the wall between
wall.
the game and the player is.
Because the other 3 walls where the audience sits, the 4th one is where we sit, pretending that we know what we're doing.
And I was like, wait, you can't do that. I was like, you can't just take me out of the game experience. And then I open the pack and I hear the innkeeper. He's like, what?
You're like, okay, you can take me out all you like.
This is so cool.
Because I think it's so cool, he wants to do it twice.
Getting Brawl out of hand. Classic.
Classic Muzz. Oh, Jakaso has got so much unplayable stuff in his hand right now.
Spend cards. Azalina, I would venture to say, is getting pretty close to the dead territory. However, as Muzzy, if Muzzy's able to expend both brawls, perhaps that's a different story.
These turns are so interesting. You've got to start, I think, with your hero power. Do I want to use this? How much mana do I have? Do I have 8 or 10 this turn? And then work everything backwards. And again, picking that Eternian Rover has allowed this hand dump that you were talking about.
It's a very slow hand dump, but
he's also waited until after the brawl to at least have this mini tempo attack.
It also, like, I'm looking at Jakaso's face, and he just keeps getting Discover a Mech, and it almost feels like he's getting concerned that he's getting too many cards turn after turn. He doesn't really know when that inflection point hits. You know, Muzzy has been answering everything toe to toe, turn by turn with value. Now, the one thing that's not happening is Muzzy's life total's not going up. It's been kind of staying in the same spot. That's a way to buy an advantage.
But I think we're hitting that turning point right now, the inflection point of which you speak, where Jakaso is going to be able to have 2 or 3 turns in a row where he puts stuff down. This is going to let him use his Shield Slam and not be sad about it. That's another card he can get out of his hand finally.
Does he need to Shield Slam, I guess, is my question.
He doesn't need to. Has he got a backup with it? I was thinking he...
I mean, we have Discover a Mech online right now. That's the thing. You know, if you have a better answer, why not use it?
Well, it's the thing you were talking about. When do you get a better Shield Slam compared to the space it's occupying in your hand? It's a weird equation to have to work out.
It's okay to take time, but eventually that time starts to, you know, run out. I think that with 8 cards left in the deck, Jakaso's still got plenty of time.
But with 2 packs in the deck, you really want to get this Lich King down to start getting through the Lich King cards before you start opening packs.
Yeah, that's a true story as well. I mean, pack does add 5 cards to hand. So if it adds 3 or if it adds 4, it's probably still fine. But you know, you pretty much want it to be more.
The fact you're Zoloing it means you want more. Like
it's cards in deck too, though. 4 cards in deck.
Beryllium Nullifier.
Wow,
I just feel that's the best card in this matchup out of the Discover Mechs.
It definitely feels strong. It's the fact that it needs to be answered in combat, I think, is what makes it such a daunting
and it gets
card to do it. And it's magnetic, so you know any single mech sticking to the board can turn it into a dangerous card.
Meanwhile, though, Jakaso, we weren't going to talk much about health total, but it is starting to become a relevant difference.
26 is pretty hefty.
Yeah.
And not using that Shield Slam means that Lich King is going to burn a card if it happens. Can't just Reckless Flurry. You got too much armor.
Yeah, exactly. Go from 26 ahead to 20 behind feels like a weak play.
So I'm thinking about your situation last turn. It's a better answer now, but is it better in the future?
Ziliax is also like, when is this card actually good compared to the space in hand?
As soon as it kills something and stays on board.
And that's what you want. That's the ideal. But also, he's got to do something, and he's got a lot of dead cards in hand. And it's just going to be a repeated theme for the next few turns.
Oh, I love that view.
The more I'm starting to think about this matchup, the more I'm thinking that turn 3 Blade Flurry is just a fine option. Just to get it out of your hand.
Yeah. I mean, obviously players tend to, they don't know if they're going to get ahead or behind on the armor count. So if you're behind, you get that really good board clear just about at the start of fatigue where you start losing your armor. You just throw away the last 6 and clear the board because you probably burned your balls by that point.
Ooh.
But yeah, just dump that card.
Cheap thing.
It's an interesting call, actually, the more I think about that.
Notice I was excited about the cheap one here. Again, getting cards out of hand. That's the hard part.
I mean,
He's not even a Super Collider. He's just like, I want the second charge.
Muzzy has definitely approached this by keeping his hand size very relatively small the whole game. Whereas Jakaso has played the value game, and it's going to be interesting to see if the extra utility Muzzy's had all game actually works out for him, if Jakaso's value is going to take it down.
It does feel like it's working out right now because Muzzy still has a hand stacked to value.
Yeah.
You know, do you need to get more value or do you need to get enough value? At a certain point, your cards do need to get developed. They do need to have impact. It's not just simply about having them. You know, having them is where you get superiority in options. But there's a point where it is too much. It starts to restrict options instead. And I feel like that's what Jakaso's been under for a large portion of this game. And so now with a 6-9 on board, the Shield Slam
Yeah.
very relevant here.
Interesting to see as well that the difference in the Baku. Muzzy's still in hand. Jakaso took an opportunity to play his earlier, for instance. And I'm curious to see when Muzzy does finally drop his down. He's under a little pressure now, though.
Again, it's a question of the hand dump versus the big minion. You know, Muzzy's hand, I think, is fairly lean where cards are concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Muzzy's going to have no trouble filling up with the value, but he's only going to get to do it once because he hasn't got that much value hanging around, whereas Jakaso is going to have trouble, but if he can unlock the problem that he's got, he's going to get a lot more value than Muzzy.
Yeah, I think that Muzzy's got enough, though. I really do. The armor total is starting to concern me. You know, it's a 29-point difference at this stage.
Yeah, that's like 2 or 3 rounds of full board attacks.
Look at this.
Okay, so this only cost him 9 armor. That's, I think, because he's going to get 7 of it immediately back.
Well, it cost him 15. I
Well,
mean,
it did, but
Shield Slam is there. You know, there's mechs to rush in. There's stuff to taunt. Muzzy's starting to become concerned with tempo. Like, that's, to me, that looks apparent.
oh, he's got to make, I mean, we're talking about the advantage, but he knows he loses the value game. He knows there's those 2 packs. He knows that Jakaso has been playing this value game all the time. He is the one who has got to make the advantage tell before he runs out of stuff. And he could well do, because his hand is very fluid.
Also, this replicator, you know, makes 3/1 mechs when it dies. Muzzy's got that Beryllium Nullifier.
Time for a master
Been looking for that to be relevant for a long time now.
Eat 5, Muzz. Just...
Yeah, pick up 2 minions, finds a nullifier himself.
Oh, that should nullify the nullifier. Game 1 of the day, ladies and gentlemen. 4 rounds more of Swiss and the top 16 to come today in this broadcast. Hope you're enjoying your beverages early, wherever you are.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind a coffee.
And we've still got the Kingsbane Rogue to come. This
That
is
was
just
a
a
bit
warm-up. It's just quicker, but it's more, yeah, it's just like, we've got weird things happening already.
That one at least attacks.
Yeah. Hit you for 1, take that. Imagine now if Muzzy had like Kingsbane, he could hit Jakaso down to only 81. Without wasting a super collide charge. Well, now it's Muzzy's turn to see what he wants to do with his Zola. Already used his Elise, so he's going to have to find a different target. Most likely the Daimon, you'd think.
I love that fuse thing.
A bit surprised on the no shield slam. Oh wait, he's only got 2 armor.
He ate 5 last turn.
Yeah, this is a difference of 50 armor.
Yeah, I mean, this is, Muzzy has to get going. Yeah, and as does Jakaso, to be fair. He has to start taking decisions. This is where Muzzy is so good. He took that decision to just get rid of that flowy. It's like, okay, this 15 armor is not worth this mess that I'm having.
This would be
But
a good
50's
time
a
for
lot.
master plan.
You don't even start with 50, I don't think. Like,
I like how it's, I don't think.
no, it's close.
All I heard was I don't think.
Yeah, that's also true.
Get rid of Brawl.
Yeah.
Demolish. Didn't get rid of Dinosaur though.
Yeah, and that's pretty relevant. It doesn't seem that relevant, but
Well, this is troublesome. I mean, there's not a lot of scary scenarios, but your opponent putting something big on board and it's staying there,
Yeah.
then having another opportunity to put something big on board, that's the start of something scary.
it is. And the whole point being there's no scary scenarios for either player because they cancel out so well. So the chance you get to hit for 12 or 18 with something, that's a big deal. Both got delivery drones. These have been mirroring each other a lot, the way it's turned out this game, which is good. It means that no one's going to go away crying, oh, my opponent got 14 delivery drones, I got 2.
The game has lasted so long that I don't even feel like the hero powers have been a main mechanism of deciding advantage.
Right.
What I feel like is it's been navigation that has been a big part of it, where Jakasu's had to forego some discoveries. You know, Muzzy had 2 turns in a row where he hit 1 damage and, you know, actually made use of it in this matchup. You know, that's a tough thing to do in the matchup. The navigation and the way that players have been presented with the scenario and how they've chosen to react has been the vital part of that mechanism.
Yeah, one thing I like about all that is you do, in a Warrior Mirror, with all this time, with both players having boom for so long, you get to find out who was right. There's no sort of, oh, he took this line, he took this line, anything could have happened. We're seeing the 2 different viewpoints on how to play the game, and because they're getting very similar pickups, we find out who was right. Because all the imbalances in randomness just balance out by the end, and you get to see which course of action was the one. Hey, next time I play this mirror match, which is hopefully never, I will take this course of action that the winner took, because that's the one that worked out well in the end.
Interesting spot here with the Mechanical Whelp versus the Bulldozer. Also, the Coppertail Imposter with Beryllium Nullifier. You know, gaining stealth for a turn and then being able to load up a Beryllium Nullifier, very real thing, but you know, Jakasu's being presented with actual relevant damage on board.
Yeah, but he does have that faceless.
Beryllium Nullifier sticks.
He does get the faceless. That's the thing he can do later.
That's true. It can't be targeted by spells and hero powers, but it still can be targeted by battlecry effects.
Keeping a 7-1 on the board is also surprisingly relevant. Yeah, you can just kill it with your face, and that's what you're trained to do as a control player. But again, that's 7 more you're eating.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
And you don't really want to, like, BGH this.
I mean, I'm starting to feel more nervous about the life total, I think, than I am, because, you know, there's just 46 armor on Jakasu's side, and Muzzy's only got 32.
Yeah.
You know, but he wants to build it up for Shield Slam. It's so much less about how much life total Muzzy has and so much more about the utility of the armor.
Yeah, Jakaso has to sort of make that count right about now. His hand still isn't really opened up very well for him. He's not able to do a lot. That is that clutter that he's had all game.
It's been keeping a nice balance, though. You know, to me, I do think there's been some missed opportunities, but overall, there's been a strong balance of options. And I think that is an important mechanism as well. You know, all my time playing cards my whole life, I've been taught that card advantage is king. If you have more cards than your opponent, you're typically winning. That feels like it's the case right now, but Muzzy is starting to make headway. You know, there's a point where tempo will trump card advantage.
However, also around that point, there is still that Reckless Flurry. We're ignoring it for now for obvious reasons. You're not going to do 40 damage worth of Reckless Flurry, but that is like in his back pocket. It's something he can use. The extra health he has is going to force Muzzy to have to be aggressive, and that Reckless Flurry at some point will actually be very relevant.
Now, Muzz finds a Faceless as well. That's the second one for him. Jakaso got 1 copy of Faceless in the deck.
And it is difficult to see how Muzzy can present enough of a threat. The packs are going to be huge here, I think. Because they are both getting to the tail end of their decks now, so there's not much more to pick up. It's 3 versus 2. Muzzy has the 3, Jakaso has the 2. So he's not miles behind on that fatigue count we were worried about earlier on when, you know, Muzzy had stuff going on.
Well, a 3 and 2 can be a big deal if the life totals are close. You know, the difference between 3 or 2 becomes the difference of like 11 to 12 damage or what have you. Something about Stonehill into Stonehill always makes me feel safe.
It just feels like you did a thing for nothing.
Yeah.
It feels like you cheated the system.
People mock Silverback Patriarch, but the only thing it's missing is the ability to draw a card.
Turns out.
It was the model for this mechanism.
I think that, yeah, it's the prototype. I think 1-4 is a bad shape in modern Hearthstone, though. A lot of minions don't have 1 health anymore.
And did Muzzy not take Direhorn Hatchling?
He did not take it.
Why would he do that?
A moment of silence as we think.
That feels quite unusual to me. You spend almost the entirety of the game in the way that your deck is built, adding that extra card. You're 1 card ahead right now. Why not get 2 cards ahead? You know, in slow matchups like this, one of the mantras I like to apply is when you're ahead, get further ahead. Don't try to close the game, just get further ahead. The game will end itself.
Yeah.
This would be a good time for a
Well, we will
master
get to see it because there's not many cards left for Muzzy to play in this game, and he has a plan. So we will see how it unfolds for him. Again, something I like about these matchups, you know, joking aside about the length of them, the intricacies are fascinating.
Light the music!
Connects for 4.
They haven't wasted many points of damage all game, have they? They're finding exact kills on minions all the way, both players.
That's where I feel like I really differ. I think I tend to waste more damage.
Yeah, those 1 health damages just add up over the course of 28 turns of Hearthstone.
Well, I don't want to say it in like I guess like an inflating my own ego way. I feel fairly proficient in these matchups.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
And
absolutely sure.
But there's just so many different ways to approach them. You know, there's no way you're going to actively, humanly think about all the factors.
I mean, who's going to test this 1,000 times? Nobody. Maybe Fibonacci.
Well, I don't think anyone can. I don't think people live that long.
Certainly before the meta changes.
Once we get like bionic arms and stuff, like then we can figure out who's right in the Odd Warrior versus Odd Warrior matchup. But until we get those invented.
This little push by Jakaso was interesting. It stopped Muzzy doing much this turn. It wasn't so much that the minions got blown up or whatever. It helped him empty his hand, but it fundamentally stopped Muzzy having a Hearthstone turn.
It's got no armor. Jakaso's
no armor.
It dealt effectively like 30 extra damage this game.
And he's going to get 7 more if he wants it right now.
And still like winning on the card advantage front. That is remarkable when you look down at how big of a difference that has made over the course of this game.
How much
I'm
do you
starting
think
to worry.
Both players will know about each other's hands and cards in deck at this point? It's easy to say it's perfect information, but this game's been going on sort of an hour or something at this point.
You have like a generic idea, but you know, there has been a lot of you know, random generated things that happen. So it's pretty hard, I'd say, to pinpoint it one way or the other. And
you were saying this earlier, this might end up getting used for only 3 or 4 cards. It is only 3 cards from that pack.
And Jakaso's headed for a burn, says this is the point we're going. I've drawn all the relevant cards.
I know what my last card is.
I don't care.
It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, I don't want it.
Now, I don't remember what it is. So we're gonna see if that's right or not.
I feel like Muzzy's only used 1 cube, but I might be wrong there.
Muzzy has used 2 cubes.
He has used 2 cubes? Oh, yeah.
That was the 2nd cube.
Yeah, it was.
It was much more for the pressure of a 4/6. Apparently, we've just entered giant mama dinosaur phase.
Giant anacondas will match up okay. I think Jakaso just wanted the information from that first pack. He's still got the second one ready when he needs it. And so... Oh, that's the card he burned. It's the fatigue damage.
Did it say he was almost out of cards?
I thought he had 1 card left.
I feel like I missed that it said he was running out of cards.
Yeah, we both missed the same thing somewhere.
Okay.
Which makes a lot more sense now. Okay, how much damage are you willing to take, and how is Muzzy going to force through an extra 45 damage than you? I mean, 45 turns of fatigue would do it. He's taking 1 less per turn. But in the real world, he's going to have to generate a lot of tempo with not a lot, and Jakaso still has a lot of removal in hand.
Well, I think that Muzzy has a superior hand.
It needs to be, though. Like he's got a 45-point handicap.
Well, and he's got more card in deck too. So this brawl, very important. This is like, saw the prayer hands thrown up. This is the first important moment of random that has occurred, and it is a sizable difference on the outcome.
That is massive. That is just from a card that both players have been looking to waste all game with the brawl, really just finding a chance to throw it away. Killing 2 big minions with it at this stage.
And that's it. Muzzy's out of cards.
Yeah.
I think Muzzy's hand is superior. I think Jakasa's position is superior.
Yeah, and Muzzy now has, albeit a very slow clock, the clock is ticking on Muzzy. He does have to get it done before that fatigue finishes him off. All Jakaso has to do is not die.
And it's not like a slow clock at this point either. You're 27. You expect to be at like 50 when you get to this point.
Yeah, Jakaso has 2 Reckless Flurries. He still has Yeah, Azalina, should things ever go that way, although I can't see him ever needing it, he's got a lot of ways. He can just literally mirror Muzzy's hand if he wants to at this point and say, okay, I've got the same hand as you and I've got 45 more health, go.
That's a very excellent point. I had not considered that.
He'll mess around with one or two things first just to get some value of his own on the board, but that's the situation we can do at any point, is just take the mirror.
So typically in the Azalina situation, when you Azalina, if you are behind, you end up losing because your opponent is dictating the pace of that. You're using your answers to try to make up the difference. Your opponent's cards then deal damage and yours don't do anything. When you are ahead and your opponent has, you know, pretty much any semblance of a hand, the Azalina, when you're ahead, does the opposite. You get to dictate the pace of the play while your opponent tries to answer instead.
And this is what I think we're seeing is that's nice talent.
Another Elise produced from the Gungoro pack as well.
That levels up the fatigue. So that's what we're seeing.
However,
before this crazy pack.
However, it's an Anaconda play, so the Anaconda can pull the Elise on death round because it's a 5 attacker more minion.
Oh my. But Jakaso is just happily dumping this hand because he's got Azalina to copy it all back.
If Muzzy doesn't kill the Anaconda, that fatigue point can be a big deal. I wish I knew what the most vital part is right now, but I'm focusing on Muzzy's side because his life total is much lower. Jakaso is laughing, and
yeah,
Muzzy's been like stone the entire game.
Yeah, Muzzy, I was going to say he's not enjoying this, but I think Muzzy is enjoying this, but not for necessarily the reasons I was going to go with. Like, I think he likes these challenges. If you're the Muzzy, you must get bored of just beating people up all day. Sometimes it's nice to have somebody like give you a bit of a challenge.
I'm tired of this.
I love that fuse thing.
And again, Muzzy has no idea that there's a Tarim there, and he's just making things a little bit easier here for Jakaso. Best of 5, last hero. The winner gets to keep their warrior. We will see one of these two again.
Ooh! What a delightful treat. I'm struggling to see where Jakaso's buying the tempo back.
There it is, but not yet.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
oh, that's the turn. At some point, it's Reckless Flurry into Azalina. That's your turn. Then you're half a turn behind the whole time, but again,
the Azalina just,
because you have this health advantage, it makes things so much more interesting. Normally you just lose, like you said, if you do that.
Well, it's going to be Tara. Counting up the kill.
He's also just trying to dump stuff at the same time. He's got so many options. I'm glad he hasn't let us down. Whether he wins or loses, he is showing, you know, the things we said about him. This guy can play.
I still can't believe this shield slam is in hand for Muzz. I can't believe the Baku's still there.
The Baku's the really interesting.
I can't believe it didn't take Direhorn Hatchling from the Stonehill Defender and instead took a 2/6 lifesteal.
This would be a good time.
Is that part of the plan? The 2/6 lifesteal, like getting a magnetic unit to attach to it to deliver.
Well, I mean, and also he knew he was getting rid of his armor, so lifesteal is much more relevant than it would be on the other side of the board.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like not taking fatigue is much more relevant.
But then your opponent doesn't know you have it. They might miscalculate because you've got lifesteal.
Ah, that's a very excellent point. I'm nervous.
This is exciting. I'm looking at this board and wondering what's even happening anymore.
That's the thing. You can't Blade Flurry the security rovers and leave stuff behind. There's some armor for Muzz. Brief of Amber discovers warrior cards, by the way, not priest cards. Sometimes it discovers
Lich Kings.
Or maybe Ultrasaur is better. 714.
That's a lot of numbers.
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Shield slam this. 14 health.
Dinosaurs are big, Neil. This is a real decision. It's hard to not take Lich King. But I'm not going to lie, 714 looked really good.
Still going to go with the value. He thought about it long and hard. That was
Army of the Dead does not look really good.
Well, it looks like you have 4 mana one of your future turns for no reason. He doesn't need space anymore, I guess. It's just a dead card.
5-card pack.
All he needs to do, and I say this...
Produces an Elise.
Oh, my.
Woo!
Nathan's getting excited.
It's crazy. This is not how I visioned the game going. It's just been like floundering around with a bunch of stuff.
At least number 5.
Of course,
But the Azalina count
there's the follow-up to the Mambo number 5.
Yeah, I was just trying to work that in and just couldn't find a way.
Yeah.
But all Jakaso needs to do is have one turn where he's ahead and he wins the game. I'm not saying that's easy to navigate into, but if he can get that one turn... Oh, and he's thinking to do it. He doesn't like his hand. He's just going to...
Well, I think that right there is going to seal the deal because he's behind. Muzzy has very few relevant tools. There's still a brawl there, but, you know, Muzzy gets an initiative on this attack.
Yeah, Muzzy gets the pack as well. No, he's got the pack. His pack's gone, right? I'm out of packs.
He gets to draw the pack. He draws another one right here. Remember, he just added one to the deck. I think that right there is the defining moment. Muzzy.
No, I'm not so sure.
I'm quite sure.
I'm quite sure that Muzzy's a long way ahead, but I'm also quite sure there's a lot of health behind.
He just took another step ahead in fatigue. 9 reared and ready to go on board. And you know, Goblin Bombs represent 4 damage on a Death Rattle too. That's not irrelevant.
Stealing a Brawl's pretty good though. Brawl into whatever you like.
Exactly. It's brawl into what?
I mean, he got fairly lucky in that Muzzy opened a pack full of cheap things, so he gets to brawl and do a thing. And you've still got these
7
hero
more
powers,
armor
these
coming
can
up.
still influence. Yeah, this fatigue's hurting.
I mean, it is pretty gosh darn even up at this point.
I predict he plays a 3-drop, by the way. he's got a few to choose from.
Muzzy's still got a Super Collider in play, by the way.
He's just been sat there for like 15 turns.
Remember that not setting the Super Collider earlier? It clogged the hand for a long time?
Yeah. He's just sat there on the board, saving up space.
The fatigue difference is massive.
It really is. That second release for Muzzy from the pack.
But that's what I mean by the Direhorn hatch. That could have been a Direhorn hatchling.
But he gained 2 health. Oh, yeah. I think he had a plan for that that just didn't come. He knew he already had another Omega Assembly in his deck at that point, which we had overlooked. So maybe he was hoping for better things there. Maybe he's going to turn into like a massive lifesteal
It's just a
monster.
bad idea. That's what I think. I think it was just a bad idea.
Well, tomorrow when they're into games 4 or 5 of this match, we'll ask Muzz, see what he says about it. All right, this is anything half decent here could give Muzz a great spot. Lyra, but he hasn't got any spells. Nothing else really hits the eye there.
Just stuff.
Yeah, some numbers. Numbers and stuff.
Big fatigue hit.
Yeah, and also the Vicious Fledgling is on a line and good to go.
Yeah, plenty of mechs to deal with that, but where's the turning point?
Yeah, the health totals are level now, basically.
I'm not even certain about clicking the button in that spot. You know, you got...
I think you feel you don't win the game with the hand you have because you know that Muzzy's got the same hand and you're behind. I think Jakaso did get forced into that Azalina. His hand was just junk at that point.
Yes, the handful of junk is the Azalina spot, for sure.
He got that Army of the Dead from the Lich King, which he didn't have to go for. He
The Ultra Sword.
Yeah, the Ultra Sword.
7 more armor. The welcome sight.
It is, I mean, and he can still outroll Muzzy on the hero power. These are big hero power differences. And it's not like Muzzy has a hand where you can just snaffle the board. I'm actually looking at this with the Baku and just saying, how does he deal with it?
Well, the fatigue hits are also just getting so big that you know, being able to deliver damage, I think, is very relevant right now. So securing a wider board position is a very real thing. I mean, Muzzy knows what the hand is for Jakaso right now. He knows these minions are not going to get cleared off. He knows he's got Super Collider. You extend into the board, you start attacking, your opponent likely doesn't recover that spot.
Yeah, and look at this now. You know that there's no spells in the hand for Jakaso, so nothing good is going to happen with Jakaso here. And
hero power, -1. Yeah, it's...
Ouch. Board, negative a bit more than 1. It's looking grim for Jakaso. And this has been such an interesting game. The two totally different styles. Muzzy using his cards inefficiently, air quotes, to generate more efficiency for his future cards. Jakaso trying to be overly efficient, perhaps, although it looked good as well, to be fair to him. But when it all came unfolded at the end, when you notice how it was actually panning out, he used his cards less efficiently as a team. As a team of 30, they ended up doing less work.
Yeah.
Of course, he didn't have the cubes as well, so we're being a little bit hard there. He did have a deck building slight disadvantage, I think.
I do think so, but you know, we could dig so deep into the game. I feel like there was a lack of heed to tempo at some point.
Yes, somewhere there was that point around the time when Muzzy started burning Reckless Flurries and Jakaso was still had his Lich King in his hand, which we felt could have been there for 3 turns on the board somehow. Muzzy playing out the Super Collider. Jakaso kept his back for quite a while. Little bits and pieces like that just kept the hand awkward.
6 sets in on Muzzy. He's driving the action.
He is. But he needs to make sure this play keeps him driving the action, because Jakaso's been so good at finding a way to keep this alive. He's got no spells, he's got nothing he can do a lot of the time.
6-drop, 4-drop. Forget the value now.
Have you ever seen Muzzy in recent times this intense as a board? Like, he's peering, leaning forward, peering at the screen. He's usually just laid back, sort of feet in the air, occasionally playing a Hearthstone turn. And
for this particular game, though, he's been pretty laser focused like this. Like,
I've not seen him like this very often at all.
Not at all.
Another...
Waiting for the Super Collider to go face at some point.
Yeah. This is so demoralizing to lose game 1 of one of these. It's the best of 5, and you know, you've got the mirror, which is always key in last hero anyway, because one of you loses a key resource. But yeah, to do it over this length of time as well, we're getting off an hour into the broadcast at this point.
9 fatigue. Another security rover. Magnetic taunt available.
Who needs mountain giants on 4 when you can do 9 fatigue on turn 28?
That gatekeeper feels like it's not the worst in the world right now. Muzzy, he moved.
Yeah, oh my goodness, I've been sat here for an hour. I need to get up and
he's come alive.
I've had shorter flights than this. And moved more. Well,
I don't know, Neil.
I don't know either. That's why I've just stopped waffling just for a moment there. What I do know is Jakaso's results that we found at the start of this are not a fluke. This guy is capable of sitting there and playing a long game of Hearthstone with the best. Thinking it through. There's a lot of stuff happening here. Oh my.
The debate there was to use the 2/1/1 bodies and the 2/3 taunt afterwards.
But if he lives, he gains a load of health next turn.
7. Fatigue sets in on Muz's side.
Is Jakaso actually going to swing this round? I think he might.
Muzz doesn't have another mech in hand. And so I think this might come down to Super Collider. Super Collider, the left mech. Oh. Hang on. No, yeah. So the positioning right now is Jakaso's threatening to summon another 2/3 taunt from Security Rover. Muzzy needs the Super Collider to hit the left 2/3 taunt and have it run into the Mirage Color. Hero Power would clear off the right taunt, and then 11 damage connects to face. and that's lethal on the fatigue hit. So my question is there another way to manipulate that? Because the fatigue hit is hitting for 10, so Muzzy needs to connect 8 damage this turn.
Yep.
Well, he's got 6+1 with Super Collider.
Yep.
That's not enough.
That is not enough.
I love that fuse thing.
So Muzzy's going to load up the Devil Sword Egg. I think he's going to make this attack. If things go wrong, look at Brawl instead.
He's got to do it all quickly. Jakaso is...
Or not.
Or not.
He's going to Brawl now. Jakaso with some claps. Muzzy, the egg wins the Brawl. Jakaso's fatigue sets in for 10. Goes to 1. Armor won't save him.
Yeah. And he applauds Muzz there.
Wow.
What a battle. And Muzzy comes through. And I've never seen Muzzy, like we say about how focused he is. He's looking away and like shaking his head in like, whoa, why have I got this guy?
Bane Rogue up for game number 2. I'm going to reference deck list. It's been a while since I've looked at him real quick.
Well, we know Muzzy's. We've just seen it all.
Yeah.
Although most of it was from other cards and things that were produced.
So the weapon buffs are going to be 2 copies of Deadly Poison, 2 copies of Toxicologist, and a Captain Greenskin. It's not running the 2/4 Buccaneer.
Jakaso kept Sprint. That's the sort of game he's expecting to play here.
Well, yeah, so I do have a number of Kingsbane Rogue games under my belt, and I wanted to talk about some of the more important factors that I have found in slower matchups. A lot of times I would expect Jakaso to be quite favored in it. The reason is Valera the Hollow. It's the Rogue Hero card, and at the start of your turn, you get a card that turns into a copy of whatever the card you play this turn is. And so as you enter a fatigue state, what Jakaso is able to do is able to play Kingsbane, and then it makes a copy of Kingsbane from the Valera card. You override your Kingsbane in play with a bunch of charges and a bunch of buffs on it to shuffle it back into your deck. Since you have no cards left, you guaranteed then draw that Kingsbane again. You rinse and repeat that process to avoid fatigue state. With Leeching Poison giving the weapon lifesteal, you know, Muzzy has to have a substantial amount of lead in order for that to become a relevant thing.
Yeah, and we've just seen how hard it is for the Warrior to get much of a lead because he's too busy defending to do anything.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier in this matchup to stick minions on board. You know, the removal for Jakaso is going to mainly be some use of Kingsbane and then utility cards. So you're looking at Doomerang to throw the weapon at a minion, put it back into hand. You're looking at 1 copy of Vile Spine Slayer and 2 Vanishes. You know, the rest of it's going to have to be done in good old-fashioned combat. And so when Jakaso has time to just draw cards, it gets really dangerous for Muzzy because he has to get off to a lead and deliver damage before Jakaso gets set up. If Jakaso gets set up, Muzzy's not going to have an opportunity to close the game. And with a deck that it's pretty much meant to play a defensive role for a majority of the game, it's very difficult to get offense going.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's amazing how the top players do find those ways to generate offense, but they can only do so much with what they've got.
Yeah, and the Kingsbane, like when you actually play it, is a very relevant thing too. You know, with Jakaso having the second Shiny Finder in hand to you know, dig it up from the deck, it's not quite as big of a detriment to have it lost early on to, you know, like a random ooze from Muzzy's side. But you can only do that one more time because you Shiny Findered the first Kingsbane. So a lot of times that's a mechanism you have to ignore and just hope that you can't get punished for doing it. You know, that's one of the reasons that the Doomerangs are so vital to the deck, is that it's a way to search up an extra Kingsbane after you've already found it, because it just, you know, puts it right back into your hand with all the buffs still maintained on Kingsbane.
Light the fuses!
Yeah, I remember that was a big point that everyone wanted clarifying immediately when the combo was sort of first discussed. It's like,
Yeah.
does this work like this? Read the cards.
Answer is yes. Kingsbane, regardless of where it goes, maintains its enhancements.
Well, nice looking start for Jakaso, getting on with it nice and early. Helps shut down any plans Muzzy may have of doing the things we're talking about, of actually trying to generate an offense.
Yeah, at this point, the lifesteal is probably
Clever concoction.
the tool that Jakaso needs to find for this. He's got plenty of card draw in hand. You know, he's not really going to be under pressure here. It's a matter of finding Life Leech before Muzzy is able to, you know, peck away at your life total.
Yeah, and we're seeing now how that sprint was so easy to keep.
Yeah.
Like, nothing has happened. It's turn 5 already.
In any matchup where your opponent's like slower to get going, sprint is such a vital card just simply because it digs for the right tools that you need to get the job done. You know, the tempo, oftentimes you get to offset it due to how powerful lifesteal on a big buffed weapon is. And so because of that, keeping sprint, I think, is a very wise option in this matchup. I think mulliganing sprint in this matchup, I would consider it foolish.
Okay. Done his homework, because you don't run into that many odd warriors in current competitive tournaments.
There's Leeching Poison.
Okay.
There's the Doomerang. And
all the things you were talking about,
it's
turned up.
Very rare that it's all she wrote that early, but it's getting very close to that point. So now what Jakaso wants to do is find Valera the Hollow. If that card is, anywhere in the top portion of the deck, really, he's going to be able to provide some substantial buffs early on and just start packing away.
Yeah, these 4s will start to look a lot less relevant when Kingsbane starts to do its thing properly. So Jakaso just taking a turn now to plan it all out. You got the things.
I mean, already down to 11 cards in deck.
Yeah.
Turn 7, 19 cards gone from your deck.
That is insane. I think this is just the turn where he's getting it all clarified out. He knows all these things. Just you remind yourself, right? So you don't do something stupid.
Yeah.
If you do something stupid, you suddenly just lose the game.
The thing about with Kingsbane is that often I've found the players who play Kingsbane, they tend to have played it a lot. The deck's gone through an enormous amount of changes as each set has gotten released. At one point, Kingsbane was a much more minion-centric deck. At one point, it was not minion-centric really at all, and now it's met this, middling point where the spells, I think, are the majority of the deck, but the minions are so vital with it. So, it's shifted back and forth between being this big tempo battle into being a combo deck and, so on and so forth. It's kind of interesting to look at because every single time that a new set has been released, the Kingsbane players have had to adapt their deck and their playstyle a little bit because of it.
Yeah, you have to watch Kalento at least once every month to see what the latest build is. It's like every time the deck just vanishes, like Kalento just goes, no, I'm not going to let this deck die. I'm just going to top 100 with it another time. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's not a deck that you can just pick up and be good at.
It takes a number of reps.
Here we go.
This is just looking through his lineup.
Here we go.
He's going to be tired at the end of knowing how to Swiss.
Well,
Odd Warrior and Kingsbane, because Kingsbane is a pretty stressful deck to play.
He's seemed quite mindful of it. I mean, Jakaso's got a lot of tournament experience under the belt this far.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's less likely to affect him. This is round 1 of the day, and this has been a very long round, but I think that Jakaso has had some a reasonable plan in mind for most of the spots here. I'm not going to debate the semantics of technical play because there's been so many plays already just through game 1.
I'm willing to bet he's made some good plays and some bad ones in that last game.
Oh yeah, I'm willing. I'm willing.
Don't ask me which ones they were.
I'm willing to take that as well. But the overall game plan is in mind, and this matchup is, it's intended to be a counter to a matchup style like this. This one's not necessarily a tough game for Jakaso. There's Valera. And I don't believe there is a super relevant burn left in the deck. When you have 10 cards in hand and you play Valera, on the following turn, you're going to get the 10th card, the Shadow Reflection from Valera's hero power, so you will burn a card in that instance. With Kingsbane in hand, with buffs in hand, with Leeching Poison in hand, there are some burns that you don't want to see, but I don't think any of them are vital. Valera is, I think, more important to get online.
Yeah, he's going to agree with you here by the look of this.
Really doesn't want to burn a card, though. And I don't blame him either. It's not urgent to get Valera online.
Precision.
No use of that second Leeching Poison, really, so...
Yeah, second Leeching Poison, the second copy is there just simply so you find it with frequency. Yeah.
That's always interesting, especially in Hearthstone with only 30-card decks. How much you weigh up finding things with often. Like, the classic one is is in Shudderwock. You know, do you want to lifesteal twice? Do you want to make sure you get the card or not?
I think the first time that was really brought to my attention was actually Chalky in 2014, where he was playing Aggro Shaman, and he had 2 Doomhammers in there.
Yeah.
And our thinking at the time was quite primitive. We did not want to have a second copy of a dead card in our decks, because what are you going to do with the second copy of it?
Win before you draw it.
Chalky goes, who cares? I want to draw it every game. And then we'd watch him draw 2 Doomhammers and then Rockbiter someone and kill him. And I was like, wow. I've never seen someone play 2 Doomhammers before. It was like I
remember
really
that happening, actually, yeah.
There were very few cards in the Hearthstone game pool at that point.
But you do give up that thing, you know, you draw 2 of them sometimes. It's like, oh, well, now my hand doesn't do anything.
He drew 2 of them a lot, it felt like.
I will silence this.
Us trying to get anything going here. I mean, this is just a futile effort at this point. This weapon is going to be insane large.
Yeah, he's got his normal Muzz face on now. Back to normal after that game.
You know, take your pick in Jakaso's spot. I think all the plays here
Yeah.
they're going to lead to about the same point. I'd say this is one of
for Vile Spine.
And I would even say this is one of the weakest plays that he had in the repertoire right now. You know, doing nothing was definitely weaker, but if you're going to spend all 10 of your mana, this is one of the weaker ways to do it, believe it or not.
Yeah, bizarre though. Totally different to the previous game. Obviously, how Muzzy started. He's almost out of cards already.
Muzzy trades as a heat to Vanish, being able to buy extra Vile Spines. Only 1 copy of Vile Spine in the deck for Jakaso.
Here we go.
Yikes.
Ouch.
Holds on to the buffs because he wants to duplicate all of them. So it's, you know, double green skin, double toxicologist.
Double green skin.
That weapon gets upgraded a lot.
And that's interesting. I mean, we went back to when I was sort of mentioning it to you right at the start of the show where, oh, there weren't enough weapon buffs. And the first build of this episode just didn't have those weapon buffs. Yeah, they had 1 or 2. Well, the very first build piled them all in, it was rubbish. And then we come full circle.
There's a lot of Baku's in play, but there's 2 Vanishes. Just smile across, and it's like, you know.
I've got to try.
The old cube the Baku. I actually don't think I've ever seen that happen. Cube the Baku, cube the cube.
You've got 2 cards left in your deck. They might both be Vanish.
And even then, it's 14, 8, 19 damage. You still would lose.
Time slips by.
So if you're going to play Toxicologist and Vanish, do you play 2 copies of Toxicologist? That's what I mean. Like, the weapon's going to get absurd. So you could make a second copy of Toxicologist, vanish all these minions back to Muzzy's hand, and then you end up with, you know, more Toxicologists online. You're looking at 10, 12, 14, 16 attack weapon before, you know, we use the second Vanish, if you go for that line. 16 attack lifesteal weapon.
Yeah, we're talking about sort of not fatiguing, but you just kill them.
Concoction.
Yeah.
So quick when you get to this point.
It's, you know, the fatigue thing I think is much less relevant in the grand scheme of things. And Jakaso is even like, yeah, let's have some fun. Have some more.
Yeah. Yeah, what am I doing?
Just attack him already. Put him out of his misery.
And
you know, something that is actually kind of interesting to me, though, is that now Muzzy has 2 cubes with a Wax Elemental in hand.
yeah,
Lifesteal does not work on Divine Shield.
that's a fair point. Yeah, that is
It's a
very
long
fair
way of getting
point.
to that point, but is that ever like a little clever mechanism that you can use?
It's something he'll have in his mind for sure.
I'm interested about that.
Almost out of cards.
All right, make some attack. Buff some attack and attack.
Do the thing.
Yeah, do the thing. Do the thing! Base.
Makes the big noise.
Yeah, it's a big weapon. We've got a 12 damage thing that just happens every turn. Like,
12 damage thing. It's really hard to remove. This needs to be the best pack of his life, though.
It's not the best pack of his life.
I hope it's not.
I don't
He's
even
had some really bad packs if it is.
I'm honestly trying to think of like what pack gets there. I'm not sure there is.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It's just a thing that I say to make it look like I'm talking about something.
I'm out of cards.
Scrolling over the Kingsbane weapon. Just goes off the screen.
Yep, this weapon's buffed.
It was a 1-3 at one point. I want to sap something else and then sap the wax elemental. I want it to be gone. It's scaring me.
Yeah, he's got a sap followed by a vanish. Overturns.
Muzzy's thoroughly dead. I'm seeing about 40 different ways for Jakaso to win this one. He's trying.
I think that's the problem. I think Jakaso's seeing 40 different ways to win it too, and he doesn't know which one's going to be the most efficient. Decisiveness
is really, I think, one of the more important factors here. I don't think he needs to be efficient. I think he just needs to be decisive.
I must choose soon.
Okay. I think he wanted to make sure. I think in his head, all the lines that led to accidents involved that wax elemental. And he wanted, because of the cube and all that going on, he wanted that gone. And I think that was his. Once he realized that was the only way he could ever lose.
Using Doomerang here to try to avoid fatigue on the following turn. So it's going to be play Kingsbane attack and then play another Kingsbane. But with Vanishing Hand, this is just lethal. And I think that Jakaso's being a bit harsh on himself right now. He's overthinking it too much, I think, in this spot.
Yeah, I agree. But also after that last game, I don't blame him for just taking his time.
Well, I do. I'd hurry up. Last game took forever.
We're here all day.
Well, I'm talking for your own sake, not for mine. I'm having fun. I know it doesn't sound like it because my voice always sounds quite angry, which I don't really know why. It's an actual real problem that I've tried to work on for a bit. Yeah.
You don't sound angry to me.
That's because you're British. Do you understand?
That's because we always sound angry too. Okay. He's going through all the things in his head. This is what he's got to be careful of, actually. He's going through all the things that he hasn't done right. It's like, no one noticed. We don't care.
You're fine. Muzzy's at 4. You got a 50 attack weapon in hand.
But it could be a 52.
Yeah, but I took a hit of fatigue.
Yeah, that I didn't need to take, or I put back a cube thinking it was a Baku in there, and it wasn't. It's like, oops. Doesn't matter. The second you start questioning yourself over little mistakes like that is when you are ready to make a giant mistake.
Yeah. There we go. Game 3, Jakaso. This counter Q was meant to punish decks just like what Muzzy has.
And it really did. We're going to get to see the Kingsbane Rogue against well, even Paladin or Shudderwalk.
Yeah. Last year standing here, the Dreamhack Atlanta in 2018. We're round number 6 at a 4-1 match score is what we're currently watching.
Interesting to me that the first signs of Jakaso not being comfortable are actually when he's won easily.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is when you're winning so hard in a...
Frodan, I'm going to dumpster you.
Frodan really did it to himself.
That was an interesting decision on the Edwin, but yeah, he had no qualms in just dumpstering Frodan.
I remember that tour stop. Frodan, I think, had some of the worst draws I had ever seen.
Yeah, he really did.
We have turned our
even Shaman, I'm sorry, even Paladin. Get some stuff, attack with it, make it big, and deal lots of damage.
If you can dumpster the boss, you can dumpster anybody.
Jakaso does have a hand that can start fending this off. You know, like you don't necessarily want to use the Kingsbane early to take care of pressure, but with Toxicologist in hand and with Elven Minstrel, you get a very nice curve here on the Kingsbane. So it's play the Kingsbane, take out the 1/1. If Muzz has a small minion, you get to play Toxicologist, maybe take it out as well. The thing about it is that there's 2 oozes in Muzzy's deck, 2 acidic swamp oozes. If you play that Kingsbane now, and it gets checked by an ooze, you may not get it back for a very long time. So Jakaso instead is going to bide his time and look for an opportunity to make better use of that weapon. And now, my question is that right?
Here we go.
how important is that 1/1 Divine Shield right now? Well, I'm looking at a Blessing of Kings, and it feels pretty gosh darn important.
How many things does he have to actually weather? Quite a few. The even pattern does just keep coming at you, right?
I mean, the lifesteal's not naturally on it, so Fan of Knives, I think, is a very welcomed pickup.
Yes.
That might have been one of the best draws in the deck at the moment.
He's looking to see if he can possibly wait even longer.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're playing this matchup as the Kingsbane Rogue player, you're more used to facing off against Odd Paladin, where the timing of Fan of Knives means a lot more than just what it actually buys you face-up value.
Yeah, because you need to do it going into that turn 5 when you're worried about level ups and fungal mancers and all that.
Yeah, against even Paladin, it's a much more paced game where they have explosive damage instead of continuous pressure. So I think it's quite wise to use the Fan of Knives here and avoid a big Blessing of Kings.
And you can see the benefit that's had. I mean, there's Muzzy just now doesn't have a great turn. Jakaso getting ever nearer to make his hand relevant.
Reporting for duty.
Anything that helps stick a minion to the board is something you're pretty happy about.
Yeah. So, strategical point now. Can he get into that sprint turn and take a beating for one turn at some point? He needs to set that up somehow.
Yeah, and this is like we took there's two very different roads right from the start for Jakaso. And I feel like this has been a common theme where his hand feels like it gets a bit cluttered to me and not quite sure where to go with it. The curve of the Kingsbane Intoxicologist would have yielded a very favorable position because Muzzy didn't have Acidic Swamp Ooze. So what's the downside if he does have it? It could be a pretty big punish. However, now we're not curving into the coin on the Elven Minstrel to find another Shining Finder to reload back up the Kingsbane. The deck doesn't get thinned out to find that Leeching Poison more often this spot. You don't have a 2/2 on board that can contest the future minions and buy you that tempo when you're investing in the Elven Minstrel tempo here.
Yeah, you can't stop everything the Paladin is doing. At some point, you've got to say, okay, which one of these things am I going to allow it to do to me for one turn and hope that I can deal with it? Because otherwise, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I'm quite curious to see how this ends up panning out, because now Jakaso has used 2 utility cards to help shore up the board. And if Muzz is able to compound that issue, what that means is that Jakaso doesn't have those utility cards left to make that huge impact. And so here, this is quite strong recognition when he's found the second Deadly Poison. If Muzz uses Blessing of Kings here, what that means is Jakaso gets to load up another Deadly Poison, Doomerang, and then keep swinging away. So Muzz just going to take his time, slow it down, and say, I want this Blessing of Kings to produce big burst damage.
This prep seems absolutely huge with what we've just been talking about this sprint. So now he is going to start thinning that deck out and have the sprint to come anytime soon.
Yeah, on the 5-mana turn here, this is probably primed for Doomerang and Elven Minstrel, but again, that's another utility card that's getting used to do that. So Jakaso delayed his early tempo, used utility, and now he's making up that tempo with the Doomerang Elven Minstrel if he wants to go that direction. So he gets to preserve a coin in this instance. That can be very vital. Also, just when the tempo matters. Does it matter early? Does it matter in the middle? The answer is it matters all the time, but when do you need it to matter most?
Yeah, going into this turn 6, the Paladin with an empty board doesn't have a lot it can do. It can make a minion, or it can put down a Valani. They're strong cards, they're strong turns, but they're not terrifying. Like some of the other turns when they can actually hero power and buff things and things get nasty.
And right now, because Muzz's open hand was quite dry, what ends up happening is Jakaso gets to get a bit of a refund on development in this spot. Muzzy has Tarim, so he gets to hero power, use Valanir, Tarim, and start swinging away. And now Jakaso's pressured to be able to handle a wider board state. So you're looking at that Coin Valera, and it looks a lot more appealing that Coin Valera is actually there. You're looking at that prep sprint and going, I'm not necessarily convinced I have time to do this right now.
But then I might need the lifesteal, in which case I have to do it immediately. That's all about how many are in your deck. That's where having 2 of them, as you were talking about, it's a big deal. The deck is getting thinner already.
I am quite surprised that Muzzy did not swing with the Valanir first in this instance, perhaps to buy more life.
Leeching poison, just as he needed it, I feel. takes away so many complex decisions from him now.
That is a major find.
Here we go.
Couple of misclicks there.
Yeah.
Another Doomerang found too. Wow. Okay, that's probably the turning point. I think Jakaso might have this one pretty close to the bag.
Yep. Managed to get the sprint off, so the deck's down to, I think, 11 cards now.
Now, I say that, of course, and there's a giant Lich King in hand.
Yeah, there is. You're going to be back to full health in a minute. It is a giant Lich King. This is where it's so frustrating to play against this deck. It's like, look at all the progress I've made, and it just gets wiped out in one attack.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity to get aggressive. You wipe out the Valimir.
Here we go.
Double lifesteal.
Still attention to the board. Interesting.
Interesting to me as well. I'm just thinking that the Doomerang there, he's got the individual minions under control just because of the nature of his Kingsbanes, but the Doomerang's the one thing that could be awkward. They might need that later.
Yeah, I mean, the lifesteal raises the damage that was on board there quite easily. You combine that with the Valeera, you got two Shiny Finders in hand. Again, I think, we may just be debating semantics at this point.
I've got a feeling he's seen a route to victory that he likes, and therefore he's going with the first one.
In contrast to the last game where it was indecisiveness, he found a line that's working, taking it decisively. Vile Spine, Lich King attack for 7. Looks good to me.
I'm so glad we switched to this match. I've wanted to see Jakaso for a while. I haven't seen much of him around. Because, when I'm doing the spreadsheet stuff that you talk about, it's a name that just pops up over and over again as doing quite well. And now we're getting to see why. And if you're willing to bring Kingsbane Rogue to a field like this, and
it's a strong lineup is the thing.
And decide there's a good lineup around it.
Building lineups is such a difficult thing to do. Like in Conquest, bringing Kingsbane is much tougher. If you run into an aggressive lineup, that Kingsbane can lose 2 times very easily.
Yeah, Muzzy's options are pretty limited right now.
Yeah, I think we're past the point of the game of, it's pretty much no return here for Muzzy.
Yeah, there's as we've seen, Jakaso all game has been playing pretty defensively. Now he's just faced because he knows it's the win.
Muzzy sticks a Crystal Smith Kangor to the board. That can be quite interesting.
Yeah, can he get it through to do anything? I guess it's not lethal next turn, technically.
Well, the issue here is that Valeera is online, so, a sap is 2 saps. Zilliax is 2 Zilliaxes, or 1 very big Zilliax.
Zilly Max.
Zilly Max.
Winter is here.
Muzzy refusing.
Oh, it heals for 10 because of the Crystal Smith Kangor.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, that was...
Oh.
You're so happy.
That's cool.
Right now.
I love that little card. I'm trying to find a way to do something other than Corpse Taker with it.
And now you know. You shoot yourself in the face.
Just get a Lich King.
5 health gains.
Get a Lich King, get a Death Coil. Get a Vanish.
Yeah.
Yep, draw 4, whatever you want at this point.
What else would you like to do this turn? Because you can do it. Anything you want to do right now, you can do it. You can live your dreams on this turn.
And anything you can do, Valeera can do better.
And
Valeera can do anything better than you.
Twice.
Must choose soon. Silent death.
This is pretty absurd. I've seen Muzzy get out of spots akin to this level of ridiculousness before. This is why he is who he is, but it's looking so grim.
Yeah, this is an Indiana Jones movie where every time he looks back at the door, it doesn't get a little bit wider open.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's not getting the hat back.
The hat's gone.
Yeah. And that's basically Indiana Jones. So, you know, game 4.
Is here.
Wow. Well, there's a board if your opponent hasn't got Vanish or Flurries or
Yeah, if they don't-
any of the cards in their hand.
If they don't got the goods, this is good. But Jakaso's got the goods. So it's kind of bad.
Hey, there's Vanish. That'll help.
Yeah.
Now he can remove all the boards after he's killed Muzzy.
I think this is a technically more sound line. Use the Blade Flurry, use the Shiny Finder, dig it back up.
Almost out of cards.
Get to swing for 7 with Fresh Kingsbane, 2 Vanishes in hand. Nothing's going wrong.
Come on, Muzz.
Come on,
Thank
Muzz.
you.
Draw a Rod of Roasting.
Rod of roasting.
Pyroblast randomly until one hero dies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he needs.
Needed the Dungeon Run card.
2-1 to Jakaso, and that's after that Grueling Warrior match, which he lost. He has kept himself together pretty well, especially after he was into game number 4. This sort of transitional meta doesn't usually survive very long because somebody takes the Druid and tweaks it about and brings it back into play.
Yeah, I think that's really the one issue I think with Druid right now, though, is that it's really hard to have further development on that deck. It has got such a strong core of cards,
Right.
that it pretty much does what it does.
Yeah, you only have 10 slots to build your different variety of Druid. That's a good point.
Exactly. So it's very difficult to really get something going there. Jakaso opens up with Kingsbane, double deadly poison, swings it at Muzz, and that's about where he needs to be in this one. And I think this is a quite demonstration of the understanding of where Jakaso knows he is in the matchup. Given the long term, Glacial Shards are a shutdown, and so you have to get going quickly. You have to take big risks, and that's just the nature of the matchup.
Muzz with the Keleseth's going to give him that 2-pronged attack we were talking about, both going for the combo and just hitting them. And obviously, if Jakaso's plan is to just do that damage as fast as possible, if you can distract him by putting annoying medium-sized minions in the way, that's a big deal.
When the deck was more minion-centric, the Kingsbane Rogue decks, a lot of times the minion pressure was,
Here we go.
I would call it almost always insignificant. You had little ways to fight against nominal minion pressure from stuff like Shutterwalk Shaman. It's not the case anymore.
Yeah,
so
it's not the case anymore, and Keleseth just does that little bit of extra work.
see the shake of the head there for Jakaso.
Yeah.
A lot invested into that. So, it's not gone for good, but it's got to be drawn. Needs Shiny Finder, needs to activate the Elven Minstrel.
Yes, time to cycle is what you just said there. And the crowd agree. They love
They're
that
going
kind of
nuts
knife.
for the Fan of Knives.
Yeah, and I mean, when does Jakaso actually do anything in this game? Turn 7?
Well, that's really, I think one of the big questions I'm asking right now is, when something gets going. So the second Fan of Knives here, and the dagger up is a nod to Ziliax being in hand. I think this is the direction to go. I think he needs to power cycle and find Kingsbane again. I think that if you're not making progress towards Kingsbane, you're quite unhappy with your turn.
So he's going to have Sap into Minstrel available for those Shiny Finders as well.
No, he won't.
But Muzzy doesn't let him.
I've seen Muzz do this over and over again, too, with the Shutterwalk Shaman. Just a refusal to make totems. And quite frankly, I agree.
I mean, quite often that's good in its own right because you don't want them back in your hand and all that nonsense, but sometimes...
No, Shiny Finder finds the utility ones instead.
Yeah. Space for the sprint, though.
I think there were 4 minions that weren't Shiny Finder, and one of them is Elven Minstrel.
So that's basically the worst you could have got, is what you said. Worst case imaginable.
It's pretty bad of the remaining minions. Captain Greenskin, Vilespine, Gluttonous Ooze, 2 Shiny Finders, and an Elven Minstrel, I believe, are the remaining minions.
I mean, he's going to get them soon because he hasn't got them here.
Wow.
Here we go.
No cycle at all left.
No Shiny Finder. So the the number of cards left in hand is, or I'm sorry, left in deck are they're going to get slimmer and slimmer.
But that's the good news. He should pick something up really soon.
It's not delivering pressure though, and Muzzy's getting time to find key pieces.
Yeah, he's got the Shudder Walk, which obviously is pretty key, but alongside those Glacial Shard already that you were talking about as well. So he's going to have options to stall if things do happen to go wrong for him anyway.
Yeah. The minions aren't going to be doing anything. 2 hexes, Volcano.
What do you even do here if you're Jakaso?
Well,
this time it's no fault of his own. He's got 10 cards in hand and they're not the 10 cards he's looking for.
You probably just play a card, like a Gluttonous Ooze. That doesn't do anything.
So many options.
Might even be tempted to just drop that Ziliax, even though you want to use it as a
play
removal
2 cards.
card.
Yeah. 2 cards is better than 1, typically.
It's a card game. Card's good. Except in this case, where they're kind of mediocre.
Agatha's an interesting option.
Muzzy's hand's actually not going anywhere either right now. That's the one thing that Jakaso has here.
But time favors Muzzy.
Right, yeah, they both go nowhere. Muzzy's good,
Yeah.
but
You're definitely, nervous as those turns tick along, as, one single draw can change that whole thing. But the longer this continues, the better it is for Muzzy, I'd say.
11 cards left. There's 2 Shiny Finders. There's the
Minstrel.
Weapon, the Minstrel. Not got many whiffs left. But sometimes you have those games where you convince yourself there's not many whiffs left and you just find a way of just keep picking them up.
So many options.
Do you vanish here?
Choose suit.
I don't
We're
know.
both staring
I
at
don't-
it,
I
and
don't know
staring at each other, and staring back at the board. Is like, what do you do?
This is where expertise comes into play. All your experience has guided you to what point, what's the best option.
So he's going to try and at least get to the point where if he does get his real cards going, he's done some damage. Maybe he doesn't have to do it 100%
Just try to chip away something.
the easy way. Yeah, this is him working out last turn. How much of my weapon buff can I afford to just burn on putting some pressure on Muzzy? Because otherwise he's just going to rifle through his deck and do that thing that they do. That really annoying thing that they do.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the payoff for that. This sprint would have been a disaster. Now it's merely pretty bad. Because he's made that little bit of space in hand.
This can... Trying to think if there's a combination of cards that makes this dangerous, and I don't think there is.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is the payoff for last
I don't know. I think there is a combination of cards that makes it dangerous, but the percent is
Yeah.
infinitesimally low.
I would agree with that. And again, sometimes you just have to, even if it's not infinite.
It's literally, I think, to draw Minstrel, Balira, Shiny Finder. I think that's the combination of it, because then you have to, the only card left that you can expend is Doomerang. That's going to put the Wicked Dagger in hand, and you'll have 10 cards going in. That's the only, I think, iteration of risk that takes place there.
And you're in so much trouble, you're willing to take an even bigger risk, even than what you just
Could be,
described.
is there a Toxicologist as well? No, he's already used one of those.
Yeah.
Has he?
He's buffed this weapon with one and the other one. Where was the other one?
Maybe there's one more iteration. Either way, very low risk to that.
Warrior melts the brain.
I'm kind of focusing on that because that's, probably Sap. Sap would have been another one.
Yeah.
So there were some iterations there that caused failure, but
Yeah, he had to.
I think you have to. Like, you can't just keep waiting. If you keep waiting, it's not going to work.
All right, the game is back on.
This is how much you even favor the damage. Override 3-attack weapon to attack for 2 more.
Yep. Well, now he's saying he can just use this thing. It's equipped as well for any buffs that are
Buffs
left.
got used, though, during
He hasn't got many left. He took that decision to...
Both poisons are gone. Greenskin's gone. A Toxicologist is gone. The weapon is very fair right now, and it's not supposed to be fair.
But it would have been burned had he not dumped that hand, so at some point. Or at least been useless.
Perplexing.
But yeah.
I mean, how important are the vanishes?
I mean, they don't do much favor when your opponent has a deck full of battle cry minions.
That's what I'm thinking too. Now, that being said, Hagath is online, so a number of cards can get cluttered in Muzzy's hand as well. So we've entered some fairly, you know, interesting territory where the matchup's concerned.
But the clock is now officially ticking. Muzzy has plenty of ways to stall that clock with the Glacial Shards, and he does have his own win condition getting pretty close as well.
Only one Sarnite in the pool right now. Gonna crumble that one back.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to vanish any of these things. And like you say, yeah, grumbling that back seems good.
Oh, something else to note is with now the fans gone, I believe, this game. Are they gone?
One was gone very early, and then he drew the other one, I think. Was that this game?
It's actually quite tough for Jakaso to just kill a Glacial Shard outright on its own.
Okay.
You know, very few tools left to actually do that.
It's got that Shiv, so that's something.
Balira, I believe, unfreezes you as well, if I recall correctly. So there is an attack available through that.
And he is.
You know, maybe that's a mechanism where Jakaso gets out of this one. He keeps chipping away at Muzzy's life total and actually holds on to Balira, like, you know, as shocking as it is, because all the weapon buffs are gone. So Muzzy gets down to a dangerous life total, he shudder walks to freeze you, and then you slam Balira and attack. I wonder if that's like a possibility. That's something I haven't.
I think he hasn't got the time. It's a thing, but
and well,
I don't think he has the time for things.
One of the big ones also is that Grubble stayed alive, so Shudderwalk is guaranteed to get back into hand now.
Yeah. Jakaso's got 2 cards left in his deck. It's truly absurd.
Yep.
It's looking like a game number 5.
It's not a good matchup.
It's certainly worse. I mean, I as you can tell, have had fairly limited experience with Kingsbane Rogue. I did play it when it first was good. But I'm surprised how bad this matchup is. For those shards, as you identified at the start.
It makes a lot of sense to me that it's as bad as it is. It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. That's it. That'll sort it out.
Almost out of cards.
Literally all the buffs have gone, so...
Muzzy is guaranteed, I think, to change Shudderwalks at this point. I could be wrong.
And with each Shudderwalk are Glacial Shards, so...
As long as he doesn't continue to get Hagatha cards that are a detriment, it's guaranteed. But right now, there's no damage in the pool. But there's also no buffs left for Jakaso at this point. So I'm not quite sure where he finds himself ever substantiating a kill. So I think Muzzy just has as close to infinite time as you can imagine to find a life drinker and then have the damage roll.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out. I mean, it may even get to the point where he just hits him with Shudderwalks.
Also, the Shudderwalks continue to buff the deck.
Yeah, these things are getting silly.
Yeah, so I think the big attention point for Muzzy then is to just continue to get cards out of hand to make space for Shudderwalk stuff. Maybe you only need the 1 slot, so that way you can cycle the 2 Shudderwalks back and forth.
Yeah, you're not in a hurry. If they never hit you, you never die. So,
but if you keep 9 cards in hand, that gives opportunity for Jakaso to, you know, sap or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, Jakaso can see how he doesn't win this, so the reason he's playing on means he's got some trick lined up that he's hoping Muzzy will walk into.
The opportunity for burn here. So he's thinking about the odds of burning both of these life drinkers and what the timing looks like and how does he get that done. I think sap is what I'm looking towards.
I'm just still looking like, even if the life drinkers go, the Shutterbox is just going to get done by weight of minions eventually.
Is that true?
I think so, because the glacial shards mean that Jakaso never gets an attack in.
Ah, there we go. So Shutterwalk would have to have... It can't have 2 immense failures with 2 Shutterwalks in hand. That's impossible. All right.
So eventually,
So
Muzzy beats him with a Shutterwalk for 6 every turn or something like that.
It's Muzzy's hand would literally have to get filled up.
Unless Jakaso can play somehow a turn where maybe he spams minions and goes, haha, your glacial shards might miss.
I
don't like it, but we're looking for any way where he thinks he can win here.
I think outside of a blunder from Muzzy that Jakaso is locked out of this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I'm seeing it now.
Well, there's some encouragement. If he's looking to burn things, that's one thing he wanted out the way.
The life drinker's the big one, though.
Muzzy also, in terms of any sort of crazy disaster, is just getting more and more of these shards in the pool. Over and over.
Engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
Sort of covering that one minuscule angle that probably doesn't matter.
Yeah. Just got to get cards out of hand. Look at that. He's hexing to go, well, if you're going to burn me, I guess I want 0-cost stuff instead.
This frog's going to have some adventures, I think, with these cards. Hagatha just turning it into a variety of different things to just kill herself some time while she's waiting for game 5.
It honestly is a liability, though. It's hurting him more than it's helping him, for sure.
Well, there's double bloodlust. It might not take long in a minute. Just kill him with an over-enthusiastic frog.
Time slips by.
It's always interesting when you watch somebody who's clearly played
Oh, he doesn't need to play that one. No, there's 2 Kingsbanes in deck. Doesn't matter, but when you get in the Kingsbane scenario, once you've already made the first copy, you just cycle the 2 copies back and forth. You never need to play the Valera copy again. It shuffles too many Kingsbane in your decks. There's a life drinker, and that's good enough to begin some sort of assault here.
That's us locked out of the game. Now it's a case of whether Jakaso locks himself out of the game.
Yeah, I think now Muzz is actually lined up for coming up on a 30 damage turn, because Jakaso's either going to have to pay heed to the pressure, Muzzy's hand is going to get filled up, and with 10 cards in hand, he gets to cycle the 2 Shutterwalks back and forth indefinitely, as long as there are no other minions in play. And with 10 mana available, gets to actually cycle through 10 life drinkers in one turn. There's no Zola in the pool, so that is guaranteed if there are no other minions in play.
That's almost like the deck was built that way originally.
Yeah.
We never see it anymore because Shutterwalk tends to draw a lot of concedes. But yeah, the 10 life drinkers in a turn is the original thing that we were supposed to be doing with the deck. And game number 5 is on the way. And Jakaso is going to have that even Paladin. Very similar lineups from these two. Muzzy taking that
Jakaso
instead, but
finally gives it up. We're headed to game 5. Muzzy's still on Shutterwalk Shaman as it's last year standing here at Dreamhack Atlanta, facing off against the even Paladin left from Jakaso. Featuring a Tyrion. Jason and I were talking yesterday about how Tyrion, we're like, why isn't it even Paladin?
Yesterday,
it's just not good enough.
This morning in the lobby, this morning in the taxi, this morning while we're waiting to cast.
Right now.
That's interesting if you want to, or you can build it as this sort of slow, rumbling nightmare your opponent has to deal with bit by bit. And the Tyrion sort of fits the latter a bit better than that.
I'm a big fan of the slower nightmare now that you don't have the explosive call to arms style stuff. So like Wild Pyromancer Hydrologist offers you a way to fight against aggressive decks. You know, it offers you a 3-2 as well against the decks that are out there, and, you know, you're trying to kill them early on. Argent Protector is a way to try to secure some amount of board presence. You know, it's trying to act as an effectively it's trying to act as a form of card draw.
And you see how Muzzy views this game. He kept the Volcano and the Shudderwalk in the opener. So he views it as don't die for the longest time and then kill them with my thing that I do.
And I don't necessarily think that Muzzy needs like a Shutterwalk chain in order to win the game. A lot of times you do, but it's quite a vital card to the matchup, I'd say, because It can act more like that Yogg-Saron style effect, where you're losing and you hope that a giant colossal effect can bring you back to the game.
Right. Yogg-Saron. Those were the days.
No, they weren't.
No, they
I actively disliked that card.
it made casting easier. How did he get back into the game? Yogg-Saron. How do you think he might fight Yogg? But Yogg.
And then you run into the actual Yogg-Saron occurring.
Yeah, and it actually.
Yeah. Enough talk about Dark Days, though.
Argent Protector, another card.
Not
Talking of the olden days, that's just found its way back into Hearthstone.
Now, we saw Muzzy when he was playing on his Even Paladin. He tended to, always pay heed to Mind Control Tech.
Yes.
As a card, and it was like clockwork. He would continue to do that over and over and over and over. It just would never commit a fourth minion to the board. It was honestly kind of interesting to watch. A lot of players seem to take opposite stands on this, where they're either like, you never play around it, or you always play around it.
I think those two are both correct. It's just when you sort of drop yourself in that middle ground and don't have a game plan that it's wrong. You can make a choice. It's a fairly tight choice to make. I think the very best players do tend to play around it a lot, because they find ways to generate such big attacks with the 3 minions they have in play rather than the 4 that they're fine. But also I think spamming wide, just saying, okay, well, half the time you steal a 1/1, I don't care. And you play your Mind Control Tech, which means you don't have to worry about it when my minions get bigger later in the game. That's another big deal, but it's just gone.
Yeah. So now, a decision point for Jakaso. Do you protect the Divine Shield on the Wind Fury minion, hope to draw a big buff, or hope that it just sticks long enough? Or do you connect for 3 more damage?
Yeah, and is there a punish if you leave up the Acolyte? I mean,
Yeah.
Coin Volcano looks a bit grim. It's not really a punish, you probably don't do that, but there's all those things that could happen and you've got to wake it out.
See, I think I'm on what you just said, though. Like, the Coin Volcano here is pretty massive for Muzzy if that Acolyte lives. If the Acolyte doesn't live, you're still gonna think about having to kill this.
Yeah, if you've killed it, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't Coin Volcano, you just have to eat some damage, I think.
In my head, I think that's a very clean attack. I think it's borderline necessary. Say this one, and now you start to look at the pool. So we have a Glacial Shard. We found 2 Sarnite Chain Gangs. I mean, there's one piece of the puzzle missing for Muzzy to have.
That was a massive pickup for Muzzy. In fact, he picked up 2 of them. One isn't going to stem the tide enough, but 2 of them, yeah, that's going to really annoy Jakaso.
And with a Valenier now drawn, Jakaso has a big interest in getting to that Valenier very quickly.
Well, he's only got the Chain Gang in hand.
Having the buff fall on the Chain Gang, So here, I'm looking at True Silver Champion. The Wild Pyromancer, as far as I'm concerned, has done its job. Start pushing damage with that Corpse Taker. Muzzy clearly is a bit weak to this right now. I think that the Consecration is also reasonable. However, with Equality in hand, perhaps I'm looking to maybe stave off the board when I have more pressure, like if they have a buff on or something. But this is a good use. You replace the 1/1. You lose the Divine Shield, but you push a lot of damage.
Yeah, and Hex is a thing. So Divine Shield is good, and you want to protect it where possible, but Hex exists.
Confident Muzzy didn't have Hex, though.
Yeah.
I think he would have hexed the Corpse Taker.
Yeah.
He gets a Volcano out. Slam that.
Justice.
More damage.
See, but now with the Consecration gone, the Equality doesn't necessarily push through a Sarnite Chain Gang. So that Sarnite Chain Gang is going to stick for a turn. One of these gets attacked.
Never mind.
Muzzy sets up a Grumble. But
he's going to stick for turn because he's not going to do it.
I don't think you do that.
You just set up the lethal through, making a slightly bigger board and then doing it all in one turn.
You do threaten a lethal here with that, though. If you Equality Consecration and push 4, Muzzy's down to 6. And you have a True Silver in hand?
What's your
sorry, it goes
to
to
healing
4,
rain, though? If he does that, you've then got to sort of take time to rebuild your board.
And it also, sometimes allows the Valenier to fall and then get Greymane instead.
Does it? Does it look like you look in the camera and go, which one's going to hit? He's going to do it. He's pushing that damage. There's no healing rain in hand either.
Very aggressive line, and I like it.
Reporting for duty.
It falls on the Gen. But Muzzy's got bigger fish to fry right now.
What, like the fact he's dead next turn unless he coin Hagathas? That's frying a lot of fish, Admirable. That coin, this is just a non-turn.
So now,
But there is a Hex now.
don't even have to play the Gen. He can play the Gen with a 2-drop, or he can True Silver and use the 2 minions. So now Muzzy has to handle 2 minions, and 1 damage threatens lethal. Avenging Wrath.
I like this
No
setup.
consecration left.
He knows there's no healing vein, because why would you ever coin Hagatha there? The answer is,
Oh
my goodness.
boy.
Now there's a healing vein. It's there. Oh,
Jakaso very frustrated.
He knew his setup was perfect there. He knew that healing vein wasn't in hand. But straight back to it. Frustrated, but straight back to the next turn. That's fine.
This is a bad spot. I feel there's still some push left here. You know, Muzzy his answers are quite expensive. They're costly. Still a lot of damage. I am not touching that Manatide Totem.
Yeah, get it done. This isn't a strategic game anymore. This is a hit him in the face kind of game. If Muzzy wants an extra card, good luck to him. Plenty of means for Muzzy to survive all this with the Hexes, Glacial Shards, Lightning Storms, Shudderwalks with Hagathas in them. There's a lot of ways to not die here.
Start with the Hex. Follow with the Storm. Glacial Shard. And I think it's shut down.
Yeah.
It's still close, but it's looking shut down.
Oh!
Wow.
Not shut down anymore.
Not shut down anymore.
It's unshut. It must be worth that. Closed. That's the word I'm looking for.
Reporting for duty.
Well.
I mean, Muzzy's got to kill this stuff. I mean,
Yeah, he's still... That Avenging Wrath is so brutal.
Engaging TC-130 into dislocator.
Was he checking through the secrets the best he can?
well, we've entered some danger territory now.
And this is so huge. 5 and 1 or 4 and 2 is such a massive difference in these 9 rounds of Swiss. Was he killing everything he can?
Reporting for duty.
Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, we're both keeping an eye on this Tarim lethal as well.
Blessing of Kings would be lethal here as well. True Silver Champion.
Yeah, and he's getting excited. He knows he's got chances.
Lich King.
Lich King's okay, though. There's so many cards it gives you that can win you it next turn. Well, obviously, it's not the lethal he wanted.
Tara would make 2 more 3/3s in this spot. But Lich King, oh my goodness.
Not only does it present Muzzy another issue that has to be hexed or dealt with, but also just the card it gives you might win you the game.
My head tells me that I think the Tarim is better, and the reason I think it's better is it sets Muzzy to 2 and puts up 3 threats that Muzzy has to handle.
I think Jakaso's instincts are telling him the same thing, but he can't resist the Lich King. What's he gonna get?
Death Coil.
Death Coil!
Muzzy's got to heal.
Not
That's
hitting
not
with
a
that.
heal.
This roller coaster of emotion that Jakaso has been going through the last sort of couple of games.
So if Muzzy knew the card, it would have to be... I guess it has to be that? Nope, that's it.
Not it yet. I think it's it now. He could have got the healing vein off the minion. We've seen that before. And that's it. Jakaso's got it done. Admirable. He's going to go to 5-1. He's taking down the Muzz in this war of attrition that has just gone on and on. He's kept himself together, and I think he's performed really well in front of the camera here as well.
There must always be a Lich King.
He's kept himself together.